Now there are certain portions that you have to completely skip. There's a certain areas which you have to more focus, and also the less important areas, I would say. So here, this is more for a UPSC optional person. Okay? In case of history optional, I'm from a history optional background. So there we have to study about the historiography and the sources and different things. So this is for the optional people.
I started my full-fledged preparation after I joined the Ultimate Assessment Program at Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. There is a 12-month strategy which I have done on Civilsdaily platform only.
I reached out to the Civilsdaily team.
Civilsdaily.
Current affairs में Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. With Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
A mentorship program of Civilsdaily, and that did help me a lot.
Good day everyone, Sreejay here, and welcome to yet another video of Civilsdaily. As you have already read the thumbnail, I am going to be dealing with on how to study modern history. Now in the previous videos, I have discussed about ancient medieval art and culture. Exactly as the same, exactly as AMAC, modern history is also one area that if you don't know what to read, you'll end up doing circles and wasting a lot of time. Because of the fact that when you actually look at the sources, firstly you have the 8th standard NCERT, which have more than 250 pages. Then you have the 12th standard new book with respect to themes, which has more than 250 pages. Then you have the old NCERT with respect to Bipan Chandra. It has more than 300 pages. And also you have the spectrum by Rajiv Ahir, which has more than 500 pages. Now, if you actually total the same, you'll understand that more than 1,300 pages are there with respect to modern history. Now, is it possible to study 1,300 pages just to get around 8 questions in UPSC prelims? Or I would say maybe 3 to 7. Because in the last previous 4 years, from 2021 to 2024, UPSC have hardly asked around 3 to 7 questions. Now, is it possible to do the same? Now that is why this session is going to be important, because I'm going to tell you about every chapter in Spectrum, what you have to skip in all the chapters, what are the areas to focus, what are the less important areas, and what are the areas that you have to skip with respect to Spectrum, be it modern India, be it Bipan Chandra and everything. Now, if you actually analyze the p values, you'll understand that modern history has staged a significant comeback. In 2021 to 2024, you can see here, 4 questions were there, which has improved to 5. In 2024, only 3 questions have came. But in 2025, it has come back again to 8 questions. Now, if you dive deeper, you will understand that 2 areas in which UPSC have asked more number of questions, right? So, non-cooperation movement, 3 questions have come. With respect to Mahatma Gandhi as well, 2 questions have come. Now, this is not a detailed analysis of something, okay? It doesn't mean that non-cooperation movement would be asked in the next year or Gandhiji would be repeated in the next year. I'm just telling you how the questions came. Now, what are the other questions? With respect to Rajaram Mohan Roy, social reform movement, non-cooperation movement, sedition, again a Gandhi question with respect to the breaking of Sartla identity. Then the Shauri Shauri incident, which was pretty hard, okay, which was very hard, I would say. This question was very simple with respect to self-help movement. Now, this was a question which was asked in 2020 as well. Now, UPSC have repeated the same. Now, again, this question with respect to the native or the non-native species introduced by Portuguese as well. Now, the first and the foremost thing, what are the sources? Now, you can see n number of videos out there in YouTube with respect to sources of the same. But none of the videos actually shows the questions and tell you that these are the areas that you need to focus. Okay. Now, if you actually look at the same, you have 3 major books, right? I'm taking off the modern history Naya wala themes here because already you are focusing on the old wala NCERT and also Spectrum. Okay. Now, if you actually dive deeper, you'll understand that out of the 32 questions which came in the last 6 years, around 24 questions can be answered by reading Spectrum and Bipan Chandra as well. Now, if you can answer almost 75% of the questions by reading these 2 books, should you go for more books? Let's say themes, should you read another 250 pages just to get 1 or 2 questions in the next coming year prelims? It's not possible, right? Or it's not needed, right? Now, that is why, let me tell you, you need to restrict yourself to 8th standard NCERT, 12th standard old world NCERT, and also Spectrum by Rajiv Ahir, not the whole book, not the whole 500 pages, but just the pages or just the chapter that I'm going to tell you. Okay? So how to read? First of all, if you don't have any idea with respect to modern history, you can start by reading the 8th standard NCERT. Okay? After that, you go for the old NCERT. Now, this is more of a storybook. Okay, these are not pinpoint facts or bulletin points which will get you the points that you are looking for. No, these are like a storybook. Be it the 8th or be it the old NCERT, these are more of a storybook which will help you dive deeper, which will help you understand the causes of the same, but you won't get it in bulletin points. Okay? So, in a story mode, read the 8th standard NCERT and also the old NCERT. They are very significant. After reading the same, then you go and read the spectrum. Now here, while you read the same, you have to make notes. After you have made the notes, you note down the same in the spectrum book. Okay? So what do you have to do? First of all, go and read the 8th standard NCERT. You make notes with respect to the same. You go for Bipan Chandra. You make notes with respect to all the chapters. After that, you go and read the spectrum. While reading the same, spectrum is already written in bulletin points. Now, all the points which are not there in spectrum, but which is there in Bipan Chandra and the 8th standard NCERT, you note down in spectrum. Okay? So, spectrum is going to be your one-page book. Okay? You need to highlight all the important areas in spectrum, and also you need to skip all the less important areas in spectrum, which I am going to say now. Okay? Now, these are the sources. You don't need to read the 12th standard NCERT because it's not significantly possible or humanly possible to read all these books just to get around 8 questions in prelims. Now, how to read spectrum is the important question, right? Now, there are certain portions that you have to completely skip. There's a certain areas which you have to more focus, and also the less important areas, I would say. So here, this is more for a UPSC optional person. Okay? In case of history optional, I'm from a history optional background. So there we have to study about the historiography and the sources and different things. So this is for the optional people. For the people who are not in history optional, you don't need to read the same. So first of all, skip the sources, approaches, the chapter 2 major approach to history as well. But in case of the 3rd chapter, this is very significant. Okay. In the last 5 years, 3 questions have come from the same. So what do you have to know? You have to know about what did Portuguese do in India? What are their major settlements? And also you have to know about what is the relation between Vijayanagara Empire and Bahmani Empire with respect to Portuguese. What are the battles? What are the forts? What are the factories established by them? What are the things introduced by them? Did they introduce gunpowder? Did they introduce these crops? Did they introduce the printing press? Did they ban sati there? Okay? So you have to understand what the Portuguese did with respect to all the native rulers and also the important things introduced by them. The same thing goes for Dutch, the settlements, and also the number of things introduced by them. Also the Battle of Colchel between Martandavarma and also the Dutch. The English, the settlements. In case of French as well, you have to go for the settlements. So dive deeper with respect to Portuguese and the relation between Vijayanagara and Bahmani rulers. But for all the other things, you have to just read the settlements with respect to all these different foreign invaders. Okay? In case of chapter 4, you can completely skip this game. Not so very significant, already there and discussed in terms of medieval history. You can completely skip the same. Consolidation also, let me tell you, hardly one question have come in the previous year with respect to consolidation. Okay. There was a question with respect to Arthur Wellesley. Now, only one question have come in the last 10 years. Now, that is the reason why, let me tell you, this is not a significant area. Okay, you can read it once, but then you don't have to revise it again and again. Now, this is where the question comes. After 1857 revolt, okay, after 1857 is where UPSC start asking questions from spectrum, or I would say you have to read the spectrum. Before that, you just need to read chapter 3, which deals with the settlements. But after 1857, or even let's say before 1857, the causes of 1857 revolt, this is where you have to focus more on the spectrum. So this you have to focus. 1857 revolt you have to focus. Now what do you have to focus more on this? You have to know about the causes of 1857 revolt. You have to know what are the different storm centers, who were the leaders, the outcome, and what did British introduce in 1857 Councils Act, and what are the changes made by Britishers so that such a revolt doesn't repeat in the future. Now also you can see there was a revolt in Bangladesh, be it Nepal, be it Sri Lanka, right? It's when actually the people's resentment comes into revolt later. Now you have to read this, okay? Social and religious movements, significant. I'll tell you how to read it. These are all significant portions. Rajaram Mohan Roy's question was asked in 2025 prelims, so very significant. The struggle beginnings. So after this, you have to read everything, okay? So after the 7th chapter, you have to read spectrum, but before the 7th chapter, you can ignore some of the areas, but focus on the chapter 3, which deal with the settlement spoiler portions. Now, when you come to the important areas, as you can see here, more than 179 questions have come in the last 13 years. Now, when you dive deeper, you will understand that most of the questions have come from UPSC have asked about personalities, the British constitutional developments dealing with the Regulating Act of 1773 to the Government of India Act of 1935. The most significant portion, we have already dealt the same with respect to the polity session. Personalities, UPSC's favorite area. Even this year, UPSC have asked 2 questions with respect to Mahatma Gandhi. British policies with respect to education, with respect to trade, with respect to land revenue. Advent of Europeans, go for the settlements, and the relation between Portuguese and other rulers. Non-Congress organizations, I'll tell you how to read it. National movement is one of the most significant portion with respect to 1905 Swadeshi Act to the Government Independence Act of 1947. All these areas you have to read from Bipin Chandra, and also you have to read from the same in spectrum as well. Regarding movements of tribal and peasant, let me tell you, only if it comes in the current affairs, TK, you focus on the same. Because in 2018, there was a question regarding Sandal rebellion. Now, this was asked because a current affairs news was there. In 2020, I remember I reading an article with respect to Munda rebellion. It was there in the Vision magazine. Now, in the same year, UPSC asked about the Ulgukan revolt with respect to Munda rebellion. So, when you read about the peasant rebellions, or when you go for the tribal rebellions, only read them if they are there in the current affairs. Now, the most important ones you need to read, be it the Indigo revolt, be it the Deccan riots, be it the Samdal rebellion. But for the less important ones, only focus on them if they are asked in the current affairs. Now, current affairs can be if a president of India or even the prime minister inaugurates a statue. Let's say a revolt happened in 1824, or let's say 1825. Now, this is the 200th year anniversary, right? 2025. Focus on this. Let's say revolt happened in 1924. This is the 100th year anniversary. Or let's say, in case of Republic Day parade, there was a tableau with respect to any of the tribal or peasant movements. You have to focus on the same. So only when it comes in current affairs, focus on that. Other than that, you don't have to study all this information. Okay? Now, regional kingdoms, not so relevant. Satyagrahas, not so relevant. Now, these are the areas you have to focus. Now, the most important areas, first of all, the British constitutional developments, as I told you, freedom movement personalities, British policies, advent of Europeans, non-Congress organizations, as I have already discussed before. Now, coming on to the British constitutional development, as I've already told you, you need to dive deeper with respect to Lakshmikant and spectrum. Focus on Regulating Act of 1773 to the Government of India Act of 1935. Dive deeper and deeper into every provision of the same, because this is one of UPSC's favorite areas. Now, with respect to British constitutional development, when you analyze the PYQs, you'll understand that in terms of Government of India Act 1935, 3 questions have come from the same. Government of India Act 1919, 6 questions. Now, it doesn't mean that UPSC won't ask questions from all the other areas, okay? It doesn't mean that you have to focus more on Government of India Act 1919 or 35. I have just showed you on how the PYQs came, but you have to give equal importance to all the portions. Okay. Now, the British policies, when you analyze the PYQs, you will understand that education policies, UPSC asks 2 questions. You can see here with respect to Wood's dispatch and also with respect to the English education system in India, the Charter Act of 1913, General Committee, and also the Orlandist and the Anglice controversies. With respect to land revenue policies, UPSC asks 2 questions. Ryotwari settlement, again Ryotwari settlement and permanent settlement. With respect to some of the industrial policies as well, you can see here with respect to Trade Dispute Act of 1929 and also with respect to the Factories Act of 1881. So when you dive deeper, you will understand that you have to focus more on the land revenue policies and do make a 1-page note with respect to same. Because as I always tell you, in case if it is an important micro theme, now this is an important micro theme, right? Say for you have to make 1-page notes. Now, what are the areas that you have to focus? First of all, what system is it? It is the permanent Zamindari, Ryotwari, Mahalwari, or different thing. Introduced by which whom? Which are the areas, the settlement width, the key features, and also the significance. Okay? So, here, introduced by, area of influence, who was the landowner, and also what was the significant features. Now, features, you don't have to restrict it to 2 points, okay? You can write maybe 3 to 4 points with respect to the features. Because features is one area that UPSC tend to ask questions. So I dive deeper with respect to features. Also, who was the owner, the area of the influence, and also who introduced and what was the time period with respect to say. Make a 1-page note with respect to all these areas. Now, education policies, agrarian labor policies, do make a 1-page note with respect to education. Now, let me tell you, in case of Wood's dispatch, in case of Macaulay's minutes, UPSC can ask statement questions, okay? Because these two are very significant. But with respect to all the other areas, let's say Hunter Commission, I don't think UPSC would ask a statement question. Because UPSC, how would a UPSC question come? UPSC may ask an ABCD question. Now, which was the following in which Hunter Commission was related to? Maybe education, maybe civil service, or something like that. Now, this is a form of question that we expect with respect to all these lesser important commissions such as Hunter Commission, Universities Act, Sattler Commission, Hardow Committee. So, you don't have to dive very deeper with respect to all these committees. You just have to note that Hardow Committee is related to education and also one important area with respect to this thing. Let's say in of Sattler Commission, it was renewing the Calcutta University. In case of Indian Universities Act, it curbed the autonomy. In case of Hunter Commission, the primary education responsibility was given to local bodies. Just understand what was the significant thing that was discussed and also it is related to what. Now, in case of social reforms as well, Age of Consent Act, what was the important area? Raise the marriageable age of girls from 10 to 12. This is only relevant. In case of Sharda Act, girls was increased to 14 and boys was increased to 18. Okay? So make a 1-page note with respect to the education and also the social reforms. Now, in case of military, police, judicial reforms, UPSC have not asked questions with respect to same, but we don't know. So do make a 1-page note with respect to them as well. I guess it's already there in the spectrum, in the last pages of spectrum. So therefore, you don't need to make a 1-page note because hardly no questions are come from the same. You can just read from the spectrum. Okay? Now, the national movement, as you already know, you must need to have a chronological idea in your mind. Okay? So from 1905, Swadeshi movement and all the other different movements were there. Then this happened, then this happened, then the Jallianwala movement came, then the Chauri Chaura movement came, then so you need to have a beautiful chronological order with respect to the events in national movement. Okay. So when you actually dive deeper, you will understand that there are mainly 4 important areas, right? The Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and also the Quit India movement. So in case of Swadeshi movement, you can see here, around 6 questions have come from the same, with respect to Swadeshi movement. And we cannot pinpoint to any particular area with respect to Swadeshi movement that you have to focus on. Okay? So you can see here, an overall features of the movement, overall date of the movement has been asked. Now you can't say that you need to focus on these personalities. You need to focus on the features. No, you need to focus on everything. Okay? who were the important personalities, what were the causes of the movement, what was the outcome of the movement, and what did people actually do in the movement. So, okay, focus on all these areas with respect to non-cooperation movement, Swadeshi movement, civil disobedience movement, and also Quit India movement. Now, so Quit India movement is also one of the significant area. So you can see here, question with respect to cabinet mission on 8th August 1942. Cripps mission again with respect to the persons involved in the INA mutiny. Same goes for INA mutiny, Stanford Cripps. Then some other questions with respect to non-cooperation, the civil disobedience movement. You have another question. Gandhian movement of Champaran Satyagraha, Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So therefore, if you analyze the same, 5 questions came from Swadeshi movement, 3 from non-cooperation, 2 from civil disobedience, and 6 from Quit India. Now, this is just a basic analysis, okay? You don't need to give more importance to Quit India movement or Swadeshi movement. Now, you must be wondering, so then how come 3 questions came from non-cooperation movement in this year, right? Now, that is why I'm telling you, you don't need to give you don't need to give super special importance to Quit India movement or Swadeshi movement. It's just a basic analysis, okay? You need to give equal importance to all the areas here. Now, the advent of Europeans, you can see here, 2 questions have been asked with respect to the settlement. And also you can see here, which among the following rulers of medieval Gujarat surrendered the EU to the Portuguese? So UPSC usually ask or tendency to ask about the Vijayanagara Bahmani rulers, their relation with the Portuguese, as we have discussed when we discussed about the medieval India, how to study medieval India. So therefore, go for the settlements, okay? What are the British settlements? What are the Dutch settlements? What are the French settlements? All these important areas. Now prepare a 1-page note with respect to saying. Okay. So, which was the European power? Which year they came? The first factory? And also all the other important settlements. So, Goa, Cochin, Daman. Also, you need to have a general idea with respect to saying. Okay. So, let's say with respect to Portuguese. Portuguese were mostly focused on the western coast, right? With respect to French, French were mostly on the eastern coast. Now, if you have a general idea, that is also good. But it's always better to dive deeper because this is also one of the micro themes. Okay? Now, the non-Congress organizations, you can see here, All India Anti-Untouchability League. Question regarding Tej Bahadur Sapru, Swaraj Sabha, Hindu Mazdoor Sabha, Rajendra Tep, Calcutta Utilitarian Committee, all these different questions. So when you dive deeper, so here, founder, name of the organization, leader/founder, name of the organization, member, leader, name of the organization, Gather Party, and the important rulers, important leaders, organizations, important ruler. So what do you understand? When you see all these questions, you will understand that UPSC mostly focuses on the non-Congress organization, who was the leader, the founder, and also very basic philosophy with respect to the same. Don't have to dive deeper. Very basic philosophy, whether it was reformist, whether it was regressive, whether it was conservative. Only this you have to focus. Okay. So, how to make a note? Organization, year, area of influence, which region was they operating, the important leaders, this is the most important thing. Okay. You have to know all the important leaders or the founders with respect to most of the important organizations. And also the basic ideology. What did they propagate? Were they reformist, intellectual, were they conservative, whether they were atheist organization, whether they said go back to the Vedas, something like that. Okay? So, objective or the ideology, important leaders, the year of influence, the year and also the area of influence. This is how you have to prepare note for the same. Now, personalities, let me tell you, it's not easy to study all the personalities, right? If you take modern history, you might see the names of around 100 or maybe 150 people out there. Is it possible to study the name of all the people, all the years, all the areas of influence, and all of their ideologies? It's never possible. But when you actually come through any of the organization, But when you actually read about any personalities, okay, just know that which area they are from. Just know that what was their basic ideology. Were they conservative? Were they progressive? This much information that you need to have with respect to all the important personalities. Okay? But certain important areas, such as Mahatma Gandhi, try to gain as much knowledge as you can have with respect to Mahatma Gandhi, Nehru, Rabindranath Tagore, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, because all these personalities, Ambedkar as well, all these personalities, it will also help you with respect to your ethics. Okay? Because in case of ethics, usually the comparison comes. Explain the thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi on education, Rabindranath Tagore on education. Explain the thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi on nationalism and Rabindranath Tagore, be Jawaharlal Nehru on nationalism. Now, UPSC tend to ask even in modern history as well. In case of mains, you need to have a comparison between Gandhian ideology and all the different people ideologies. Okay? So, dive very deeper with respect to Mahatma Gandhi. So, regarding the personalities, all the important personalities that you need to know, their ideology, the area of influence, beat everything. With respect to less important personalities, okay? Now, when you actually study the organizations, you will be studying the areas of influence, right? You will be studying the philosophy or the ideology as well. Now, if a person is a member of the same, he will also be from the same region. He will also have the same ideology, right? So you don't have to study the ideology of person. Rather, if he was a member of the same, if the organization is in a particular region, you will get the information regarding the person as well. Right? Let's say Raj Bihari Bose. If you know that he is from the other party, you know he is an extremist. Right? So therefore, focus more on the organizations, the leaders and the founders, and you don't need to dive deeper with respect to all the personalities out there. Okay? So when we actually conclude with respect to modern history, you understand that what are the most important areas? So now let us summarize what are the important areas, most important areas, and also what are the areas to skip with respect to spectrum and also other books. So the British policies, as I already told you, in case of educational, if you're studying about Wood's Dispatch or the Macaulay's Minutes, dive deeper because statement model question can come. Statement model question can come, so dive deeper. But with respect to Universities Act of 1904, with respect to Hard-Dock Committee, know about the most important thing. And statement question won't be there. So you just need to know the most important thing with respect to all these important committees. Okay? Social reforms, go for the Age of Consent Act, Sharda Act, Bengal Sadi Regulation Act and different acts. Land revenue is the most important. Go for Ryotwari, Zamindari and Mahalwari. Who were the tenant? Who were the owners? What was the time period? Who were the founders or which Governor General introduced? And what was the significance with respect to same? With respect to British Constitutional, as I have told you, Regulating Act of 1773 to Government of India Act of 1935, dive very deeper, read Lakshmikant and also Spectrum. With respect to independence movement, all the four most important movements, you have to read Bipin Chandra and also Spectrum. Non-Congress organizations, most important, go for the founders and important leaders, area of influence, time period, and their philosophy. Were they secular? Were they conservative? Were they progressive? Social movements in 2025, question with respect to Rajaram Mohan Roy was there. So learn about the social movements, learn about the personalities, whether they were reformist or regressive. Advent of Europeans, mostly go for the settlements, and also the relation between Portuguese and Vijayanagara with respect to Bahmani and Vijayanagara rulers. Tribal revolts, if it is any anniversary, if any statue is inaugurated, if let's say 100th or 200th year anniversary, focus on that. Also important, Deccan Riots, Indigo Revolt, Sandal Rebellion, Tebaga movement. Rest you don't need to focus on too much. If they comes in current affairs, you can focus on that. Expansion and consolidation not so significant. Revolt of 1857, causes, storm centers, after effects. Development of trust not so significant, but learn about Ripon and Lord Lytton and Metcalfe. Historiography and sources is two areas that you can completely skip with respect to spectrum. So, okay? So, I hope all of you have enjoyed the session and have detailedly understood on what to read modern history. Also, if you have any doubts with respect to this lecture, I'm providing you my Telegram ID. So, do reach out to me in case you have any doubts. I'll see you all for the next session with respect to science and technology as well. Okay? Thank you everyone.